we'll fast forward August 19th, 2011. And our day starts very early in the morning, August 18th, that Thursday. Going to Alabama. No air conditioning.
Very long car ride.
You don't like driving with trailers.
Nope.
Found that out the hard way.
Yep. So you drive all the way there. It's just me and you, because Dale bullshitted out or something. I don't remember.
Yeah.
So it's just me and you, and we get there to pick up the ring. And I think, was it broken down already or no?
No, it was still up.
Okay, so the ring's completely up. So me and you alone had to break the ring down and load it up into the trailer, which took a very long time.
Because this ring had 38 boards. Not like the normal standard 1 foot boards. These were half foot boards.
Then on the drive back, I believe we actually got pulled over.
Yeah.
Because the trailer lights didn't work, I believe.
The wire came loose and started dragging and just ground itself out. And it's interesting because I remember seeing that cop had somebody pulled over. And everybody tells me, if they got somebody pulled over, they're not going to fuck with you. And I'm like, and I remember asking them, do you have insurance? Right when we passed that cop. And a minute later, the lights were on. I was like, well, so much for if they have somebody pulled over, then they're not going to pull you over, because they pulled my ass over that night. And we almost did not make it home for a Livewire show.
Yeah, I think we almost ran out of gas too, didn't we?
Multiple times, because we were sent $100 to go to Talladega, Alabama, grab a ring.
What car did I have at the time?
It was like a Jeep.
Oh yeah, I think it was an Isuzu.
Yeah. And of course, Dale being Dale, told us to meet at a certain time, and he'd wire us money. Little do we know, everything closed at that hour, so that made it a very long trip. And then we finally get to Sector for the first show. We're not supposed to main event.
I can't tell you the original card, to be honest. I just know at that time, personally, I felt like I was in the best shape of my life. I mean, I just got back from basic training, and I was still really skinny, but conditioning-wise, I was in really good shape. And I was very happy to be back wrestling again.
And you get to form the Elite.
Yeah, and I've always been a huge fan of stables. I grew up, and we haven't really touched on any of this, but when I grew up, I was a huge fan of The Rock. My mindset was always to be like the best entertainer possible. Like, I don't want to go out there and I want to entertain people. I realized that I would never be like the best wrestler ever, but I wanted to go out there and give people their money's worth, make sure they were entertained, because I felt like that's what The Rock was. And I grew up idolizing him. Such a funny guy. And also grew up during the Attitude Era, which a huge part of that was factions.
Right.
Corporation, Ministry of Darkness, DX, Legion. I was about to say Legion of Doom. The Nation of Domination.
Oh yeah.
It was a huge part of it for a long time, and I was a huge fan of factions, and I wanted to have my own group of guys that I could lead. And so formed the Elite. It was me, Jihad and Richie, a couple of young talents that we originally met in ZPW, I believe.
Right.
Outstanding tag team that has only gotten better over the years. And were you in the original group?
Not at Livewire. We did a test run somewhere.
Was there a fourth one, or was there only us three?
The first night, it was just you three.
Okay,
and
so
you beat me down, actually.
The premise of the group was basically we're all young, hungry guys that thought we were the best in the building. Nothing complicated.
Right.
But I liked it. It was good. It was very, very good. And the group of people involved in it were all talented. I wasn't gonna allow just anybody to be a part of the group. I didn't want somebody to hold it down because, as they say, you're only as strongest as your weakest link.
Right.
So if I'm out there running around with the mod, then probably not gonna have a good time. But it was me, Jihad, Richie, and it was good. The original Livewire shows were very interesting. Had quality moments. Uh, One guy getting his head thrown into the wall by Big Game James. Um, yeah, it's stuff like that. And obviously the infamous debut that made it to Tosh.0, I believe.
Tosh.0, Botchamania. It's made it a lot of places.
Which I had the pleasure to be in the ring for. If you've seen the video, that is me. I can confirm that. Greg Anderson, was that his name?
We just call him Pukey.
Well, Pukey made his debut, tried to get on the ropes and do a Batista, and just slipped and fell right off. It was great. Great stuff. Livewire, in my opinion, though, wasn't in its best iteration at Sector. Like, I really think Livewire's best shows happened at the filling station. Um, I think if those shows would have happened at a more approachable venue,
Oh yeah.
and that's not to say anything bad against the filling station, but when you put on shows like that in a bar, you're really limiting your crowd you can draw.
Right.
But when it
And
comes to some of the cards and the matches that were put on, I really think the Livewire hit its peak at the filling station in terms of talent, shows, and matches.
yeah, and it was becoming like all the other shows in the past. Everyone at this point is wanting to be on the card at some point, and I couldn't fit everyone on the card. And
You know, Livewire was actually the first place that I was given the chance to be the guy. Other than the tag team, that was the first solo title I think I ever won was the Livewire Championship. I
you
believe I
actually
won.
won the mid card title and then the main event title.
Yeah, terrible memory. But I know I won it when I was in the Elite.
Right.
Um,
Well, the elite pretty much lasted the duration of that first run.
the thing about the Elite was it allowed me to show personality that I hadn't been given the chance before. I was never really given the mic, so to say, or given the spotlight to get in the ring and grab a microphone and talk, which I think is probably my biggest strength is my ability to talk. And the Elite and Livewire in general was the first place that gave me the chance to showcase who I could be as a heel, especially because at that point I'd had limited runs as a heel, and while I got over, I never really had the chance to do more than just go out there and wrestle. And Livewire gave me that first shot.
And here, you get to work guys like Anthony Henry, um, Robbie came in. Um, you were the main event just about every night, working these different people.
Yeah, and
How?
honestly, that's probably where the biggest portion of growth when it comes to learning inside the ring happened. Me and Anthony Henry didn't really get along for a really long time. I thought he was one of the biggest dicks slash douchebags that I have ever met in the wrestling business. And he thought that I was some shithead, which he might still think for all I know. But we didn't get along at all for multiple reasons, and that was just a few of them. But the one thing I've never been able to question about Anthony Henry is his ability inside of a wrestling ring. Honestly, probably him and Antrone Brewer, the fireman, are the two people from this area that I honestly believe have a chance to make it. And while after getting to know Anthony and riding in cars together to shows and working the same show together a few times, he really grew on me, and I think he became a better person. as years went on and certain circumstances changed in his life. But I always felt like I was pushed to be the best me when I was in the ring with Anthony, because he really pushes you as hard as he can, and that led to a lot of great moments.
What was one of your favorite matches from Livewire?
Man, I'm not sure. Livewire was great for me, and I'm gonna touch on that more in a second. But there was a match with Anthony Henry, and I'm sure you recall this, where the finish was extremely complicated. We had two run-ins. I believe the first run-in was Jeremy Cruz ran in and speared me, and then after I was down, Darkness ran in and curb stomped Anthony Henry.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And mind you, at that point, me and Anthony Henry, this is a pretty lengthy match. We're talking like 20, 25 minutes, I think.
Mm.
And while I was in good shape, I wasn't in Anthony Henry shape, and I was gassed. Like, I was getting pushed to my physical limits at the time. And I ended up going over on him. I think I beat him with a cutter. And that was probably my anytime I got in the ring with Anthony Henry, I felt like I was really being pushed to be a better competitor, and those kind of matches are what I enjoyed most about wrestling.
Yeah, and that was the thing. There was some great talent. I felt Anthony brought a lot to the table, especially that you had him.
Obviously, as well, when you're looking back on it now, and the unfortunate circumstances that have happened since, anytime I was able to share the ring with Bam, as some people know, or most people I guess know, is taken away from us too soon.
Right,
Obviously, I cherish those memories now. He played a big part in getting you the filling station, or keeping you in the filling station for a while. One of the two, I don't remember.
right.
But that as well. Um,
And you two actually main evented our big event, which at the time was the biggest draw we'd had.
yeah. There another memory I want to touch on is I had a lot of beef with the referee. We're not gonna touch on why too much, but there was one time that I think I slapped her or something. I don't remember. There was a lot of it was funny to me, but she took it a lot more serious than I did. But there was just a lot of fun times. It wasn't a company where, no offense, you didn't have to take it serious. You were just able to go out there and have fun. It was very reminiscent of TWF in the beginning,
Right. And
where
that's what I wanted to do. I wanted something fun. I wanted something where people can show what they could do and then learn, because there were several learning trees there that you can learn from. Like Anthony Henry was there, Darkness was there, Chris Main was there, Brandon Parker was there. And Dustin Knight at the time, he had a lot to offer. There was a
and
lot of learning trees.
looking back now, probably one of the first steps. I want to talk about Devin Wright, Chris Wiggins for a second. We didn't discuss this earlier in TWF, but I had a triple threat match with TWF with Jeremy Cruz and Devin Wright. The bell rung, and from the moment the bell rung until the match ended, Devin Wright chopped me the entire match.
Whew.
So the match ends, I go backstage, and I do what I was taught to do. I go up to him, I shake his hand, and say thank you for the match. And he says, I've got a lot of respect for you tonight, because you took all that and you didn't complain, you didn't bitch about it. So fast forward to Livewire. I'm the champ. I'm getting to show what I can do. I'm putting on good matches. And after it was before I had a match one night, he comes up, he pulls me to the side, and this is after they started the new Flatline. I think the new Flatline had been going for like 2 or 3 months at the time.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "Hey man, I really want to say that you've really impressed me recently." I guess he'd been to a couple shows. He said, the thing that really impressed me was the fact that you can go out there and you can work a match, and then later on in the match you're still able to do the leapfrog, bear crawl, drop kick, the AJ Styles spot. even though like I wasn't I wasn't in great shape. I didn't have muscles, and he was impressed, I guess, that I still had it in me 10 minutes into a match to do that athletically. And he said, I really want you to come work a Flatline show if you're interested. And mind you, at that time, we had only worked one Flatline. I had only worked one Flatline show, you as well, before that, and that was the original Flatline when we got squashed by the Common Man.
Right.
Nothing really to talk about that, but
And that's pretty much all that
and
happened.
at this point, Flatline was a huge deal for me because Livewire was great, but I felt like Flatline was the show because Livewire was so restricted by being in the filling station, while Flatline had this great venue, Patriots Park, that could draw a lot more people than the filling station could draw.
Right.
And Flatline was, they had the who's who of the local area on a regular every show basis. And of course I said, yeah, like I was super excited for it. And Livewire essentially was what gave me that chance because before then I hadn't even been an afterthought to Flatline. And finally having that gave me the chance to get my foot in the door, so to say.
You know, I don't think a lot of people are actually willing to admit that Livewire did help them get into other doors.
That's the thing. Any company that you can get video of your matches and put on good matches can help you. Any company that has a legitimate ring that you can get in and wrestle people that are better than you is going to help you. I had an old video game, and one of my friends once told me the only way to get better in video games is to play people that are better than you. Sure, they might kill you 25 times to your 2 kills, but you're going to slowly progress and get better by playing against the better people. And I think that analogy works great in wrestling as well. The more you wrestle someone that's better than you, the better you can get. And for a lot of guys that were coming to Livewire, they had the opportunity to wrestle people that were better than them.
Right. And some of them, they did progress, and then others, they didn't progress at all.
And then you got, I think Livewire brought Wade Adams.
Right.
I think his local, out of the local area, Livewire had Wade Adams debut in Cameron Cade.
Yep.
Wrestled in Livewire. That got him out in the local area. There's a lot of things at Livewire that could be achieved, but I think a lot of them were looked down upon because of the venues. And just in general.
And,
even
what's that?
Go ahead.
I don't think you were the only one that originally was not looked at as a serious competitor at Flatline, because you had you. I don't think Fireman was originally part of their plans, and look what he turned into. Ken Lee, I'm not quite sure, but I don't think he was originally part of their plans either, going all the way back to the TWF days.
Yeah, and Flatline's a very long topic. Just to touch up on Livewire, I had a very lengthy run being on the top of Livewire, and I got to work pretty much everyone that came through Livewire. And I got the ability to get on the microphone on a regular basis, which really progressed me as a wrestler because that allowed me to develop, which at that point hadn't been a thing for me.
Right.
And heading into Flatline, I don't think I would have survived as long as I did without the opportunity to develop who I was as in and outside the ring as a character.
So, how did your Flatline debut
go? Interesting fact. I don't remember exact details, but my debut was against Charlie Anarchy, who I think he wrestled maybe a few times before then. I'm not sure. And I think I want to say I was instantly over. Like I got heat, came in as a heel, and I got people to hate me. And I want to say I went over my first match there.
And this
What?
was one of the first few months, right? Of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Flatline. All
It was
right.
before the Pulse Championship had been crowned, and I went there and I did good, and they invited me back, and I became a regular.
And you end up in. Did you have the manager yet, or was that after the title?
No. Let me think of how this worked. The original TLC match was before I got a manager. I
Okay.
think.
So you end up in this angle for the first Pulse Championship.
Yep. Fatal four way. You got Hexon, Kinley, Charlie Anarchy, and David Coleman. Tables, ladders, and chairs. First ever time at March of Champions. I think the first ever March of Champions.
I think so. And
And
four really different people.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Hexon, the bigger guy. Kinley, the smaller fly around guy. Uh, I don't even know how you would describe me. I'm just the average guy. And then you got Charlie Anarchy. Um, a lot of great spots. Obviously, the most memorable is me and Kinley pushing Hexon off the top of a ladder through 4 tables stacked up on the outside of the ring.
Like,
Um,
and this wasn't technically your first go at a ladder match. Dating back to TWF.
yeah, and
One
I,
of the
I want
one
to
of the
say I
more
had a ladder
popular
match
matches
in
there.
RWE as well, to be fair, though.
I don't
But,
really, I don't remember that
uh,
one, but I remember the TWF one sticks out because I was still reffing at the time, and this match really stuck out. I think it was you, Dustin, and I want to say Ken.
yep, 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 it was. One of the scariest moments of my life, and funny story about this is every ladder match I'm in, I've always end up on the wrong side of the Tower of Doom.
Ugh.
I've taken a superplex off the top of the ladder twice, and every single time it's scary as shit.
Wow. So fast forward back to current time we're at. Charlie ends up winning the title.
Yeah, and I'm gonna talk about this, and I know that this was a heavily debated issue. Honestly felt like out of all the four choices, they picked the least viable choice. Because at the time, I'm crazy over as a heel. Kinley's crazy over as a face. Hexon obviously has the size,
Right.
and they go with Charlie. Mind you, Charlie was somewhat over, but I don't think he was quite the level of Kenneth. And his performance in that match left a lot to be desired. Now, Charlie won the match,
Mm-hmm.
and I think 2 months later, maybe 3, but I think it was 2, they had him dropping the belt to me.
And this would be one of your first singles titles outside of Livewire
Yeah, yeah,
in front of a lot of people.
yeah, in front of a lot of people. And mind you, at this point, I know I had Tommy Bonds as a manager. I was told that I wasn't good enough. Maybe not good enough, but I wasn't able to do it by myself. I needed a mouthpiece, which I extremely disagreed with.
Mm-hmm.
But I nodded my head. I said, "Sure, let's do it. If you think that's what's best, let's do it." So we do it, and honestly felt like Tommy Bonds was more of a distraction than a help. The entire match, he'd be ringside doing something, getting the attention of the fans, which would take the attention away from the match. And I don't think Tommy Bonds helped me in any way personally.
Because he originally managed Brennan Parker and then moved over to you.
Well, what happened was we eventually formed a mini stable of me, Brandon Parker, and Tommy Bonds.
Mm-hmm.
which essentially revolved around me and Bonds doing whatever we could to help Brandon Parker. And then I won the post championship from Charlie Anarchy, which led to a pretty long feud with Ken Lee. Obviously, me and Kenneth are good friends, and in the ring, we pushed each other. Never had any problem with Ken. I think we had a great feud. During the process, at some point, me and Tommy Bonds left Brandon Parker and joined Devin Wright.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I don't know. And I had a good run as Pulse champion. Most of my matches were against Kenneth, but got insane amounts of heat. And I know this is a little bit of ego talking, but I always felt like I was the most over heel in the building. Um, my ability to go out there and get heat, I think, was unmatched by almost everyone in the locker room.
Yeah. I remember being there because there was a time period where I was at every show. I just was never used, obviously, but it was a 6-man tag.
Yeah, I I want to say this is actually right after I dropped the belt to Ken Lee.
Right
I think
before.
no, I think I dropped the belt to Ken Lee in December, and this match happened in February because Ken Lee was I wasn't in the TLC match the next year. It was
Okay.
Kenneth. So Kenneth got the belt for me finally in December. Great match. The feud's finally over. And I don't think I was booked at all in January. I don't remember. But February came, 6-man tag match. Got David Coleman, Charlie Anarchy, Devin Wright versus Brandon Parker, Ken Lee, and Fireman. And the building was absolutely electric that night. I don't think there's a video of that match online. I'm not sure. I haven't been able to find it, but that was a really electric night.
Um, if anything, I would think Flatline would have the video. If nothing else, Wade Adams might have it.
Well,
But
I feel like that might have been one of the nights Wade's camera died early or something.
Okay.
But regardless, the match was basically planned simple. They wanted me to take all of the faces' finishes to end the match, send the fans home happy. Mind you, I just came off a really long push that I was very happy with,
Right.
and we're building up because the next month is the new March of Champions. This is March of Champions 2.
Yeah.
So this is the last main event until the big show.
Yeah, and Dave Coleman is on fire at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think that was my peak in terms of fan popularity, I guess you would say. I was very hated, but at the same time, there was a small group of people that were enamored with me for some reason. The 6-man tag, almost the entire match was highlighted with "Let's go Coleman, Coleman sucks," rivaling chants. I remember being in a hold on the ground and firemen whispering in my ear saying, "Man, these people really like you tonight." And that was honestly maybe one of the most alive crowds I've been a part of. And at that point, that's where I felt like I was headed in the right direction. And the very next show brought me down, I would say brought me down to earth.
And the next show being March of Champions, right?
Yeah, March of Champions. Going into March of Champions, I just came off a really, really decent length, good title run. Just coming out of the 6-man tag where I was the focus. The crowd wanted me to either get my ass kicked or to do ass kicking. Either way, I was the guy. I show up to March of Champions, and I'm told that I'm in a battle royal, which I'm not happy about. I wanted more. I wanted my chance to be spotlighted at March of Champions in a singles match. You know, in a triple threat. I'm just coming off the TLC the year before where I had a phenomenal performance and I had a good title run. Had this 6-man tag where I was over, and I wanted to build on that. And I show up and I'm in a battle royal, and I'm not even one of the final 4 guys. I'm basically in the ring for 2 minutes before we have to get down to the final 4 guys, which consisted of 2 other guys that had other matches in the night to spotlight themselves. So this is one of the nights, and this is probably one of the only nights I ever tried to politic, because I wasn't happy. I felt like guys that had other moments to shine in the same night didn't need these moments that could be given to other people on the roster.
Right.
They didn't need to double shine. They didn't need all that spotlight when there were other people that deserved it. So I went up to Caleb James, one of the people I still consider a friend. We don't talk that much, but so I went up to him and said, I don't feel like this is right. You know, I want more. I want to do more than this. And unfortunately, nothing changed. And I went out there for 2 minutes in a battle royal, got a good reaction, got thrown over the top, and that was it. That was March of Champions. And I'm really disappointed, and I was very let down. But there was nothing at that point I could do, so I had to get up and I had to keep pushing on, because if nothing else, I was loyal, and I show up to every Flatline show, and I did what they asked me to do.
And pretty much at this time, after March of Champions, you're pretty much all momentum derailed. And
Actually, not quite, because I think they did realize how big February was, and they realized that I was over at March of Champions. So I believe it was 2 months later in May where I main evented against the Firemen for the Flatline Pro Wrestling Championship.
And this being a month before the Livewire return show, where you versus Fireman had been promoted since February.
Well, I'm not gonna get into any of that. I don't have anything to do with that. But I always felt like the big match at Flatline, because at this point, Anthony Henry and Brandon Parker has been done to death at Flatline, and I felt like if you were gonna use 2 new guys that were gonna get the crowd emotionally involved, it was me and Fireman, because Fireman was the top face, and me, in my opinion, and I know in a couple other people's opinions, was top heel. And we went out there and we put on a match that the crowd was emotionally invested in. And obviously I didn't win, which I never expected to. But we put on a match that, in my opinion, showed that I had the potential to be a main eventer. And after,
did you stay at the main event?
No, after that, it was pretty much downhill. I fell into I feel like the Jamie Noble type role of never have a feud anymore. You just kind of get plugged and played into different slots. They tried to give me a mini feud with JC Walker at one point. Me and him actually had the first ever one-on-one ladder match at Patriots Park, where I took the back body drop over the rope onto a ladder that was hanging between the guardrail and the side of the ring. Very painful. And
what was the ladder match for? Just random, or?
I want to say it was for the #1 contendership for the Pulse Championship.
Okay.
But I mean, my series with JC Walker, my first match with him was where I dislocated my shoulder. And I think it was a pretty good series with him, though, which eventually led to the third March of Champions. And mind you, at this point, I'm still getting over, but I feel like I'm still in that space where I'm not being given anything that I can really work with. I'm kind of getting put in matches to either put guys over. Well, honestly, that was pretty much it at that point, which I was okay with. You know, I know you can't have a push all the time.
Right.
You know, but I felt like I had been in that spot for a while that March of Champions is coming around. The year before, I was in the Battle Royal for 2 minutes. This year I knew that I was going to be given that one-on-one shot to, to shine in the big show finally. Except, come to find out, I'm in the Battle Royal again.
Wow. So, was this battle royal any better or worse than
Well,
last time?
this Battle Royal ended up being career-changing, actually.
This battle. Okay.
Um, at the time, the big heel group, the Rapture, was running things. Anthony Henry is the heel leader with a bunch of lackey followers. David Yale, a couple other guys. So I think I'm not being given a singles match to shine. Let me try to fit something into this battle royal where I can be utilized somehow. So I come up with a spot where it's a miniature face turn. Mind you, at the time, I am still an over heel in my entire run in Flatline. I was a very over heel, but I felt like I needed to do something to try to kickstart myself to get back out there in the spotlight for the people in the back. So I come up with a meme to see what the crowd reaction would be like. And then I was going to go back to being heel on Jacoby Boykins, who was in the match. And we were going to do a spot where I went to RKO him, and he tosses me out the ring. So we do the miniature face turn spot. I still to this day don't know how over it went because of what happened afterwards. My memory kind of fuzzed out there. But I went for the RKO on Boykins, and he throws me over the top. Mind you, when we were talking about this, in my mind, he's like throwing me to the apron first, and then I'm rolling down to the floor.
Right.
So essentially, he's placing me over the rope and dropped me on the apron, and I'm falling down to the floor. Instead, what happens is he actually launches me over the rope straight to the ground.
Ooh.
In the process, my leg lands first, and my leg gets injured. I'm on the outside of the ring screaming, like I'm in extreme pain. I can't get up. A few people come out and help me to the back. And I sit there in the locker room, and I'm in intense pain. I'm trying to walk. Mind you, I still have adrenaline at the time, so I don't truly know the extent of the injury.
Right.
So I'm trying to walk, and I have a few people come up to me. I believe Caleb was one of them. Cruz came up to me. And I had a few people come up and say, "Hey man, are you all right?" And I called fireman over because fireman is an actual firefighter, and
Right.
he knows some medical stuff. And I had him look at it. And at the time, he didn't think it was anything serious. He said to keep an eye on it. So the adrenaline is still there, so I still don't know the extent, but I know I can't walk. So I just want to go home at this point. I'm in pain, and the show's not over. I can't stick around to shake everyone's hand. I can barely walk.
Right.
So, ask Cruz to help me to the car. The show's ending as I'm getting up, and Cruz helps me out to the car, and he lets go of me to go open the door, and I almost collapse right there. I can't stand on my leg. And I go home, and the entire time I'm just thinking, like, this is just a stinger. It'll be all right. Give it a day or two, everything will be fine.
Right.
That was how all my other injuries were before then, just minor, nothing serious. The next day comes, and I can't get up and go to work. I still can't walk. And I'm still hoping, I'm praying that, it's nothing serious. This is just going to be a couple days.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing as the next day comes that it's not so simple. I actually have a picture that I posted on my sister's Facebook because I was using her phone. Me in shorts 2 days later, and my knee was literally the size of a basketball. And there was a whole mess of the first hospital I went to actually said that I had a broken leg, which some people could argue might have been easier than what it ended up really being, which was a torn ACL and a torn meniscus, which I didn't find out until 2 months after the injury happened. and it ended up being a total of 3.5 months, I believe, before I even had surgery.
Wow.
All the while, I'm not able to go to work. I'm not able to make money to pay the bills I do have to pay. And even after surgery, I missed even more time off work. And I was lucky to work for a company that was willing to be acceptable of my time off and let me come back eventually. But it was a very, very trying time in my life, as all I could do literally was lay in bed each and every day and watch TV because I couldn't stand up. And I think a few weeks after I had surgery, I finally got to start rehab, which was another very challenging part, as I don't think people realize how much pain and how hard it is to come back from an injury like that, especially when you're not the WWE and you don't have the best training staff, the best doctors in the world to look after you. You just have to
Right.
rely on whatever doctor you get at the hospital or whatever rehab center they send you to. These people don't care as much about you as the people that get paid that you do.
Right.
And I went to rehab, and that was basically the end of my wrestling career.
So you end up with the runaround with the hospitals, pretty much.
Yeah, oh yeah, most
Which
definitely.
hospital finally told you what was wrong?
Well, essentially what happened was I went. I don't remember the first hospital I went to. They said that I had a broken leg, and they gave me a follow-up appointment the next week with the orthopedic department of the university hospital. And I went and saw orthopedic specialist, I guess. And he was the one that said, after looking at the X-rays and taking a few more, and said, "No, you have a torn ACL."
So
And I also had a torn meniscus. And he actually gave me the choice. He said, "Listen, the swelling will go down. You can go on with life with these injuries, but you'll never be able to do anything athletically again. You won't be able to go outside and play catch with your nieces and nephews. You won't be able to jog. You won't be able to do anything. Most definitely won't be able to do wrestling again."
it was
And
a complete tear.
yeah, the ACL was gone. The
Okay.
meniscus was it was tore, and they could. I don't remember. They said something about they could either like scrape it out or they could try to reattach it, depending on how much was torn. But that goes back to the doctor not necessarily being that concerned about it, because I never actually got told if my meniscus was actually repaired or if they just scraped it out. So I'm
Mhm.
not sure if I have one there or not.
So that would be your last wrestling appearance at
I
the
made
Battle
I,
Royal.
I made one more appearance with Flatline in November. Um, I showed up. I basically said, hey, I'm coming back, because the whole reason I went through the surgery was because I wanted to wrestle. I love wrestling, and I wanted to come back. And I went to Flatline, and got a promo. I said, I'm coming back, and when I'm coming back, and this is the thing, whenever I got a microphone in Flatline, they let me say whatever I wanted to say. So I made sure whenever I went out there, then I'm telling you what I want. And what I wanted was to have a shot at the Flatline Pro Wrestling Championship. So I went out there and I said exactly that. I said, when I come back, I'm coming and I'm going to be your Flatline Pro Wrestling Champion. And after that appearance happened with them, I never really heard anything else from them. Uh, I was pretty much that.
So you think they didn't take your promo well, or
No, I don't know. Part of me wants to say that they were moving in the direction where they kind of wanted to have a roster full of guys that were in shape and had muscles. And after the injury, and mind you, because I'm laying down every day, so when I was hurt and when I had surgery, I gained weight and I was pretty much in the worst shape of my life at that point. And I just don't think they wanted that on their roster anymore. I think even going into the injury, they were kind of already at the point where they were trying to phase me out, like I'd seen them phase other guys out before.
right?
Point Charlie Anarchy was phased out, and I think they were already pushing in the direction of phasing me out. And I just think they invited me back to do the promo because I don't know. It was it was a very hard time in my life because I still wanted to wrestle at that time. I still wanted. I had the passion, and it hit that point where I didn't feel like I was wanted anymore. Where Flatline didn't want me, and uh, it was at that point where I looked at my choices and decided that I was just gonna hang it up.
Do you hold any ill will towards Jacoby for that?
This is the thing, and I'm gonna talk on at a rant here. Not at all. Wrestling shit happens. That's the nature of the beast. He didn't do it intentionally. I know he didn't. And shit just happened. There's nothing that could have been done except better communication beforehand to avoid it. And no ill will at all towards Jacoby. And I'll even say no ill will at all towards anybody in the Flatline booking staff. And I say this because I understand that everything's a business. And if you don't think I'm good for your business, then that's a business decision. And I don't take anything done business wise as a personal thing. You know, we could have disagreed on a lot of ways I could have been used, but that's a business thing. That's not anybody taking personal shots at anybody. And I don't have any ill will towards anybody at Flatline.
You say you've hanged it up since. Do you plan on maybe trying to get back into it at another time?
I mean, I think as a wrestler, anyone that's ever done it for a long period of time, there is always going to be the itch, they would say.
Right.
And there are itches. Anytime I go see a wrestling show in person, whether it be Livewire or Flatline, I want to be a part of that show. But at the same time, I can go 2 or 3 months without watching wrestling at all, and I don't have a second thought about it. Because the thing about getting hurt was it made me realize that even though we're a part of the company, we're still on our own.
Right.
I got hurt. I couldn't go to work for 4 or 5 months, where bills just stacked up, and stacked up. And the company didn't pay for those.
Right.
I, after returning to work, spent 6 months catching up on all the bills that occurred during that time. And that's the thing. If I return to wrestling and I get hurt again, nobody's going to pay my bills.
Right.
And unfortunately, I don't see myself ever making it. As much as I love entertaining people, it's a calculated risk that I would take if I ever did step into the squared circle again. And there are a lot of times where I want to. I miss wrestling deeply. I miss getting in front of people and performing. And if I would ever do that again or not, it would completely depend on the right circumstances and the right situation.
I have to agree with you on that because you can get hurt anytime doing anything. It doesn't have to be the complex spots. It can just be the basic moves.
Yeah.
The basics where anything can happen anytime. Slip off a rope, mat shift, anything can happen at any time. And as independent contractors, that is upon us. No one else responsibility for that. So we're gonna play some name association here.
All right.
I'll throw out a name. You give me first thought, story, anything you want there.
This is gonna be where I get the heat at, boys.
All right, Chris Main.
Educated. That would be the one word. He's a very good teacher, and has a lot of talent.
All right, Ryan Bonebreak.
Oof. I don't know the word I'm trying to think of, but I didn't end up being a big fan of Ryan Bobreak. I felt like he had an ego that wasn't deserved, and not a fan.
The Fireman.
the most talented, entertaining person in the area. I mean, I'm really sad to see that I don't know if he's moving on fully to reffing to try to get there, but he's entertaining. His catchphrases are good. I think if there's one person that I'd had to pick in this area to make it, he'd have the best shot.
On a little tangent here, you got to work the Fall Brawl shows that he put on.
I did.
What was that like compared to any other show you were working?
Well, the locker room atmosphere just feels different at those shows. Because you've got a lot of guys from a lot of different places coming in to work those shows. And everyone there just wants to top everyone else. Like, I'm disappointed that I was never able to work the firemen in Thompson, because I feel like the roof would have never reattached to the building after the match. But there's a reason those happen once every month, or once every year. Those shows are truly special, and I don't think you can imitate those shows on a monthly basis.
No. All right. Smooth Excellence.
Underrated. One of the best tag teams that I've witnessed. I think Flatline actually had Smooth Excellence versus Worst Case Scenario one time. Phenomenal match. I rarely mark out at wrestling anymore, but that match had me doing it.
Darkness.
God. I wish he wouldn't have gave up on wrestling so early. He has a lot of personal. His personal life has taken a bigger toll on him than it should have, I think. And also, I don't think the way he wrestled with his body size, I don't know how long he would have been able to continue to do that. That had to take a toll on him physically.
TCB.
I mean, I touched on this earlier. He's a great guy that has a passion for wrestling. I would say that he's a mark, a pretty big mark, but a good guy.
Hexon.
Surprisingly, me and Hexon never had much interaction outside of TLC. Like, it was always fun to talk to him backstage. I don't think we have any issues with each other. It's pretty impossible to. We never had much interaction. But pretty cool overall guy.
Oz Knight.
I'm not sure what to say about him, to be honest with you. He was one of the original. This is the original place I was actually going to train at was out in a yard in Harlem, Thompson. I'm not sure where it was. Yeah, Thompson, and he was one of the trainers that was going to train me. And I actually did a backflip on a trampoline, and everyone thought it was amazing. And they're like, "Do it again," and I could never do it again ever in my life. But I mean, there's not really much I can say about him. We've never had any like personal interaction.
All right. Robbie Vio.
Robbie Vio, I don't have anything wrong with him personally, but everyone in this area for some reason got a big dick over him, and I never understood why. Like, in the ring, I would say he's average. He's a pothead, so maybe that's why. But I never saw the big deal about Robbie Vio.
Alright. Last one. Kinley.
So he's probably the person in the business that I have the most respect for. We basically grew up, so to say, training together, and played countless hours of Madden together, and video games in general. Traveled the road together, and he's the guy who will go out there each and every single night and give you 100%, and do whatever he has to do to get his name out there. And he's one of the guys, even to this day, that you see traveling on a weekly basis, putting in the work that needs to be done to get there. And I hope it pays off for him.
And like I mentioned earlier, Chris Main has resurfaced since, but it's taken a couple of breaks. But Ken Lee is the last of our training group
Yep.
still out there.
Yep. Yep.
He's been able to avoid the injury bug for the most part, um, and able to keep evolving with the business.
Ken Lee's one of the guys in the business that's willing to help others, willing to help get people spots other places, willing to help push people to get better. And that's a rare trait nowadays. A lot of people are all about themselves.
Oh yeah, just watching him with the Livewire trainees, pushing them to seek more training, seek more places to work. A lot of people would just say, "All right, I'm closed. Bye." But no, he is still working with these kids.
Yep.
All right. So, do you have any final thoughts, social media or anything like that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, I don't really have much social media. I am going to predict the Atlanta Falcons to win the Super Bowl this coming year. The Atlanta Braves will continue to be a dumpster fire for the next few years, more than likely. Um, I mean, I never really got the chance to say goodbye after the whole Flatline incident to everybody. Um, it was a fun run, and I had a lot of great memories that I was able to share with a lot of guys. And I hope I was able to leave good impressions on most everyone that I was able to work with. And truthfully, I miss wrestling a lot. And if I ever get in better shape, I do want to come back. But unfortunately, there's not many good options locally anymore. And we'll have to see what happens. But I want to say thank you to all the promoters that did give me a chance. And I want to say thank you to the people that were fans and watched. And hopefully, I was able to make you feel like the money you spent to watch the shows was worth it. Because that was the end goal. I wanted to be the best entertainer in the building. And that's pretty much it.
All right. And I do plan to have you back in August. Um, trying to get you, Kenley, and get Mikey Galino back on the show. And we're going to talk some football then, because you and Ken are both Falcons fans. Mikey's a Jets fan.
Wait, wait, wait,
I'm all
wait.
over the board.
Before you announce your team, I just want to see what team you're gonna bandwagon on this year.
You know, I'm interested to see what Paxton Lynch does in Denver. And, I still have my hopes up for a rematch of Panthers versus Broncos. But the last Super Bowl left a very sour taste in my mouth seeing those two teams and how it went down.
Well, I want to say thank you for having me on your show. I think this might actually be the longest podcast that you have. I think we're
Yeah.
actually going on close to 2 hours.
Yeah,
And
officially the longest.
I don't even think we actually touched on everything we could have touched on, which is remarkable.
No.
But yeah, it was fun being able to say everything. And I don't think I actually said that many things that would piss too many people off. Surprisingly, I thought there'd be more, but apparently not.
I think that's the mindset a lot of people have when they come onto a show. They feel like they're going to ruffle a lot of feathers, and then after we talk, they're like, I look back at it and it's like, that wasn't that bad. That wasn't much heat there at all. So,
Well, the problem is for the majority of my career, like I wasn't a guy that got heat people. Like I had heat with Charlie Anarchy at one point, uh, Anthony Henry, but I mean, most of that was really more personal stuff than actual wrestling stuff. But yeah, wasn't that bad.
all right. Well, I think that about wraps it up for this show. This has been the Rainstorm with Ryan Rain. this week's guest, David Coleman.
You left out the Caucasian persuasion part.
Oh man, that so long ago. The whole Facebook name and everything.
Ooh. All right.
All right.
Adios.